An Autumn Song, a Legend, by Sarah Anderson Krim. It was a breezy autumn Friday. The chill of a light drizzle, which is common during this time of year, caused Helena to pull her cloak closer together around her body. She was walking along through a patch of forest on her way home from her job after school. She had a job sweeping up and unloading boxes at the local shoe factory. It was a dreary job in her currently dreary life. She hoped to escape the confines of her small town in Maine one day and head off to New York City. She sighed to herself. Just 141 days more till I'll be done with school and I can finally get out of here. She often imagined what it would be like there, all the smells and sounds and sights of NYC life. She could almost taste the New York Frank and hear the screech of the subway cars come to a halt and then rattle off again. The sounds of a living city, not like the tiny rural rustic town she lived in. But most of all, she looked forward to the nightlife, the bright lights, and the sounds of Broadway. She began humming NYC from Annie to herself to keep herself occupied on the half-hour walk and keep her mind off the chilly, brisk fall weather. As she was humming, she heard a little rustle. She turned briefly, but saw nothing, so she dismissed it as a hungry squirrel and continued on. Not 5 minutes had passed when she heard the little rustle again, and turned, but still nothing appeared in her line of sight. She began picking up her pace and continued humming a little louder, all the while keeping a look behind her. Her heart began beating faster. As she was turning her head around, she slammed into something. She let out a scream of fright, but when she looked up, it was none other than Jared. Jared, the one who had a huge crush on her in 4th grade and who had asked her out. Jared, the tall, lanky, be-pimpled boy. Jared, who was always following her around like a lost puppy. She sighed and growled in annoyance. "What was that for?" He bowed his head and began in the quiet voice of his, "Oh, so sorry, I was just trying to give your necklace back. I noticed you left it at work." He held it out in his bony, outstretched arm, and she grabbed it from his sweaty palm. She looked at it and noticed the clasp was broken. She couldn't believe she had lost it, if just briefly. It was very important to her, for it used to belong to her mother. She missed her mother greatly. It had been 7 long years since she had lost her. On it was a little charm, a tiny howling wolf. It symbolized her mother and her love to sing. She had gotten it for her 11th birthday, right before her mother died. Jared began, "I better go," and turned to leave. She woke up from her daydream thoughts and let out a, "Thank you," as he was running away. She began walking again and slipped the silver necklace carefully into her pocket. She would have to figure out a way to fix it later. She finished her walk and unlocked the door to her house. When she got inside and pushed the door shut, she called up to her father. "Dad," she yelled so she would be heard through the big old house. "I'm home." Just then she noticed a note on the counter. In her father's messy handwriting was scrawled, "Working late taking the night shift. There's some lasagna in the fridge. Dad." She sighed. Another night home alone. She knew they needed the money, but still she wished that he would be around more. She decided to get her jump on her homework, even though it was a Friday. She thought to herself, "It's not like I have a social life anyway." Helena couldn't wait to get out of the small, insignificant old town. She felt like she was in the Dark Ages. She began walking up the creaky old stairs to her room. It was a long trek, since her room was all the way up on the 3rd floor in the attic. The house always felt so empty with her mother gone. Only her father and she remained. Helena opened the door and flung her bag and jacket on the floor. She walked over to her desk and carefully placed her broken necklace down. She decided she would fix it later. She flopped down on her bed and let her eyes close briefly before starting her homework. She was so tired from her long week of school and work. When she woke, she opened her eyes to find it was completely dark out. She stretched out and went to check her phone. The screen blared bright, and she blinked while her eyes adjusted to the light. It read 11 p.m. She placed it back on her bedside table. She groaned. She hadn't meant to sleep for so long. It was quite chilly in the house, so she decided to put her coat back on. Her stomach let out a loud growl, so she began her sleepy descent back downstairs. She cleared her throat and began singing to herself. Whenever Helena felt lonely, she always sang the old tunes her mother sang to her as a child. She recalled her story her mother once told her about the legend of the Vox Lupine. The song described the creature as a giant black wolf. It was said instead of howling, it sang. I am the one who sings. I can mimic all things. Give me your voice. You have no choice. The story goes that the wolf was once a beautiful young woman who had an amazing voice. As she grew in fame, so did her jealousy and her lust to defeat all of her competition. It is said she became so jealous that she began summoning and consorting with the devil. The devil offered her the power to rid herself of her rivals and mimic their voices. She took the deal without fully realizing the consequences. Yes, she had a way to rid herself of her rivals, but with a horrible cost. Her once beautiful human body was transformed into the form of a wolf. She rid herself of her rivals by ripping their vocal cords out with her sharp wolf fangs. She howled in despair at what she had done and what she had become. But the deal she made was for eternity. She became the Vox Lupine, or the voice wolf in common terms. She became increasingly bitter with time and bloodthirsty with her new power. Helena hummed the song to herself as she was cooking the leftovers. It was but a child's tale. She sat down and inhaled the scent of lasagna. She shoved a bite into her mouth. The lasagna wasn't amazing, so it was a leftover, but she was too hungry to care. She rinsed her dishes and began singing to herself again. It was rather eerie being home alone at night. She checked the microwave clock, and it read 12 p.m. She heard the sound of scratching and bumping, but quickly dismissed it as the windy night, causing the branches of the trees to bump against the house. Just then, the power went out. Helena was plunged into darkness. It took a minute for her deep brown eyes to adjust to the light. It was storming outside, and power outages were common in the old house. Helena continued to sing the song as she searched for a flashlight, almost tripping over herself in the process. Singing always seemed to calm her down. It was strange. The house almost had an echo to it tonight. She made her way over to the door to look through the window at the storm raging on outside. That's weird, she thought to herself. She thought she had locked the door on her way in. No, she had definitely locked the door when she entered the house. A chill went down her spine, goosebumps rose all over her body. Someone else had opened the locked door, and it couldn't have been her father, for he was at work until early in the morning. This door seemed to have been forced open, and it was covered in scratch marks. They weren't regular scratch marks, she decided as she examined them more closely. She deduced that whatever made them couldn't be human. Helena began backing up slowly. She made her way back to the kitchen, all the while her heart racing a mile a minute. She turned and grabbed the biggest knife she could find. Her face was as white as bone. When she turned back, she almost dropped it, for the largest wolf she had ever seen was blocking the only door. Its fur was black as night. Its giant fanged teeth gleamed in the moonlight. Its eyes burned red with hatred. Its paws were the size of her face and were complete with giant claws, perfect for ripping into young, tender flesh. Its tail was erect with the thrill of a chase, and it poised to strike. Helena threw her knife at it, but it did a little more than scathe it, and caused its eyes to burn redder with hatred. Helena screamed, "What do you want?" The Vox Lupine threw its head up and began its song. I am the one who sings. No, you can't be real. You're just a human story, childhood story, cried Helena. The Vox Lupine shook with laughter. She lifted her head to sing. Sleep, my little child, let your dreams take wing, and I will sing. Helena gasped. That's my mother's voice and song. She used to sing that to me to help me fall asleep as a child. How do you know it? The she-wolf cackled. Oh, is that Mommy's song? The one she was singing as I ripped her vocal cords from her neck. She didn't even have time to scream. That's why they never let you see the body, honey. It was too mangled and full of my claw marks. Why would you do this? Cried Helena. The Vox Lupine replied, she had too good a voice for my taste. The wolf ran her tongue over her lips in a mocking gesture. So, it was bye-bye, Mommy. Her tail gave a content flick. Now I have come for you. The Vox Lupine lunged at Helena, her muscles rippling under her ebony fur. Helena ran, bounding up the stairs 2 at a time, her heart in her chest, and the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Maybe she could reach her phone in time and call for help. The she-wolf yelled tauntingly, you cannot escape me, for I'm the Vox Lupine. With that, she began to sing her eerie hunting song. I am the one who sings. Helena was on the 2nd floor now. She threw a chair to try and obstruct the Vox Lupine's path. The she-wolf leapt over it and continued, I can mimic all things. Helena was moving as fast as she could, her lungs and legs burning with exertion. She kept saying to herself, this can't be real, this can't be real. She was on the 3rd flight of stairs now. Give me a voice. As Helena burst into her room, she began thinking, this must be the end. I can't believe I'm going to die like this. God save me. Why is this happening to me? You have no choice. The Vox Lupine finished her song and poised to strike. Helena let out a scream, and in a last-ditch effort threw the contents of her desk at the mystical wolf. She closed her eyes and shielded her arms against her face, preparing for the inevitable end. But she felt no searing pain, nor did she feel ripping flesh. Helena slowly lowered her arms and opened her eyes. What she found confused her. The Vox Lupine was gone. Plain gone. It was almost if she just disintegrated into thin air. She examined the room and found nothing. Helena looked at the pile of things she threw from her desk. It was all ordinary things, papers, pens, tissues, books, and the necklace lay scattered, littering the floor. The necklace! The necklace! Helena thought to herself. It was the only day since she got it that she hadn't worn it. Maybe there was something powerful infused into the tiny silver howling wolf charm, which dangled on the delicate silver chain. On Monday, Helena walked into work to start her shift. Jared walked up to her, as always, and started pestering her. Did anything interesting happen over the weekend? Asked Jared. Nothing really, Helena said as she stroked her now repaired necklace. You got a new necklace, I see, mumbled Jared. No, I just fixed it, replied Helena. Helena ran her fingers over her silver necklace. The once pure silver charm had turned into an ebony black wolf with glistening red eyes. Thin, or is it?